Welcome back to the Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the status quo so couples can thrive as their most authentic selves. Today on the show, we have Kari, a fun coach, professional mindset and life coach on a mission to help women free themselves from hustle culture and succeed with connection, creativity, and play instead. Kari, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to dive into your role today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I know this is going to be the juiciest, most soulful conversation, and I'm really excited to get into it.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I love that you said the word soulful because it's just so my listeners know, I met Kari at the Powerhouse event that we went to. I've been talking about this conference on every episode since because it's just been so juicy and so expansive. And I've met the most soul aligned people there. I don't take that lightly because for so long on my journey, I felt so alone and the only one in the world that's waking up and having all these realizations and talking to God and doing all the things. There comes a point, I think, on the journey when you realize that it's not just you and you surrender that spiritual ego and you open yourself up to say, God, I am ready to meet my soul family. And then immediately, just like that, I'm meeting the most beautiful souls who just feel so full of who they are, embodied in what they do, and just full of ancient wisdom that I think we are all so deeply craving right now.
Yeah, so beautifully said. And I relate to that so much. And it sounds like we're in a similar season where when those people, when your soul mates really start flooding into your life, it's like a flood, like a rainstorm. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't have female relationships like this my whole life. And now I have so many of them that I'm like, I have to be so intentional with nurturing them and keeping up with everybody. And it's just a beautiful gift.
It's so amazing. So tell me about your journey and when did your spiritual evolution happen? And were you married at the time? How is it affecting your romantic relationship?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago, but it was in the fall. Maybe it was my 25th birthday actually. And so I was a couple months into being married. And it was interesting. The spiritual awakening was ignited through my pivot from health and fitness coaching to life and mindset coaching. And you can imagine it got very real in a lot of different ways, from business to my own personal growth, my spiritual growth. And to be in full transparency, that transition in business was very hard. And it was financially strenuous on me in ways that I didn't anticipate. And so Alex and I, my husband, had gotten married in July, and this was the fall. And I kid you not, we came home from our wedding, and for the first time ever, I had to lean on him financially.
Yeah, isn't that the hardest thing ever for ambitious women like us? I know that was extremely, extremely hard for me. So
yes, it was so hard. And I really think, reflecting on it now here with you, that cracked the door open to all kinds of a new depth of self-discovery, which of course is the spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was newly married, and it would just all of a sudden everything bursted wide open.
Yeah. Wow. And then how did you guys navigate through that journey?
I think it was definitely, and still is, a harmony of knowing what is for me to navigate in solitude and with God, and also knowing when to kind of pull him in or meet him where he's at, or at what points in the path we walk together and I lean on him, versus what is almost so vulnerable that it needs to be a me thing for a little while first. And so it's just kind of been this ebb and flow of that ever since we got married. And even, like I said, even now to this day, it's like that, but it's gotten a lot easier to navigate that because I mean, this is probably the essence of your whole show, is just when you think you're close and you're connected and you communicate well, there's a whole nother layer, and it just never ends. And it's a beautiful journey, but just, accepting
and
it.
Humbling. It's so humbling.
You said it. Yes. So humbling.
I remember when I first started my journey and I came across, I forget who It was. So it was like 5 stages of like spiritual ascension in relationships. And it was like, you've got your honeymoon stage, the power struggle, stability, commitment, and bliss. So I was like, okay, I'm on the path to bliss. This is it. And then you get there. You really, really do. And you're like, whoa, we're flowing. We are connected. We are so alive in our bodies, in our love, in our relationship. Our manifestations are flowing in, magical synchronicities are happening, and you feel like you're on cloud fucking nine, and like for real. And then it just is this like ever unraveling of what you think and a deepening into love, and that depth requires so much surrender to what you believe, to know what you have like confirmed as your new identity, just like the shattering of so much. And I wish it wasn't that way, because when I'm trying to get people to deepen into love, that's the part that they're scared of, is like, I don't want to have to deal with the depth, like the unknown. And they're just like, this is good enough. This is enough. I don't need more. And I'm like, no, like you're missing the whole point of being in union with a soul who is devoted and committed to deepening into love with you.
Wow. Yeah. And that's why I say the work that you're doing is so incredibly important, because it is so tempting to settle instead of like forging into the depths of like the unknown and like letting someone into your soul in that way. Oh my gosh, it is so vulnerable, but you're right, like that's the magic. And that's what we're here for at the end of the day. Like, that's a huge part of our human purpose. And to miss out on that, I don't know, I guess it's one of those things like you don't know what you're missing until you experience it.
Yeah. So you and Alex clearly have gone through transformations within your relationship. Do you feel like that was required in order for you to step into your dharma and like become this fun coach that you are today? Like, where are the connecting dots between those journeys?
Such a good question. Let's see. I mean, instinctively, yes. My favorite thing about Alex and I's relationship is that from the start and forever, we are so different in the ways that we operate, in the ways that we see the world, which probably most couples are, right? Like we're all so incredibly different, and we edge each other to grow so consistently. And it's like just when I think I've learned and evolved and just learned to see things through a different lens, he gives me like another one. And we do that for each other. And without that, I definitely wouldn't be in the role and in the purpose that I am fulfilling today. He's played a huge role in that. And I really believe that where we're both at and who we're both becoming, like we really couldn't do it without one another.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Chills. Yes. But like on the surface, doesn't it feel sometimes like, I know for me, it was like, is he standing in the way of me stepping fully into my spiritual evolution and my like cosmic dharma and all of the grandness and the goddess energy that is calling us? Because he's like kind of like reminding me to stay so connected and grounded to reality. So how do you know when are they standing in the way and like stopping you because of their fears versus like bringing you back down to earth to keep you grounded and connected so that you don't lose connection to reality?
I love this topic. I would love to get into this because I went through it. I met you when I was in Arizona. After that event, I took a spontaneous trip up to Sedona by myself for a week.
Yeah.
It was a full week of self-transcendence, truly. Like, I was just hanging out with God, like me and the Holy Spirit, like all week long.
The poems that were flowing out of you were speaking to my soul. Like, I'm going to put your TikTok down. It's my favorite thing ever. It's
Thank you so much for
powerful.
and that in my art in that way, because that was, I mean, you can imagine like mountaintop straight channeling the entire time. And so I felt like I was receiving like anointings and like missions, literally like, here, this is what I want you to go do in the world. And I was so untethered and I was in the state of absolute bliss. And I felt, of course, all these conflicting emotions and thoughts, because I mean, I'm an open book. For the first time ever, I didn't miss my family.
Yeah.
And I'm in love with my husband. He's my best friend.
Of course. Yeah.
I've got 2 dogs that are my babies, and I did not want to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're saying with like, is he holding me back? Like that
Yeah.
stuff is real and that comes up. And there are so many things that I had to sort through.
Girl, trust me, like I moved out of my home to get my own apartment for a whole year because God called me. And my husband, as loving and as supportive as he is, like, I mean, I couldn't even imagine him being like, yes, of course, like this is fine. And yet he was. And he was just like, it could be fun. We'll see each other every weekend and I'll do my thing. You do your thing. I don't know what's going on with you, girl, but I'm here. If you need anything, just let me know. And all of my friends and all of my family told him, you know, you don't have to stay with her through this mental breakdown, right? My own family. So trust me, what you're feeling is divinely guided because I do believe that the path of coming home to your soul and allowing your soul to deeply connect with God so that you can be in your cocoon of true, unconditional, divine love to receive your true calling and mission and purpose requires that isolation period, the solitude. And that journey, it has literally been what every single prophet has had to go through in the caves. Oh, detached from society to birth the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. The book that you're writing is prophecy. It requires solitude.
You get it, girl, more than anyone. Of course you do. Like everything you're saying is just landing so deeply. And that's exactly what it is. And I can only imagine like a year of like allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to lean into that process. I mean, what did that bring up for you? Like, what were the biggest, lies that you had to encounter and navigate in that journey?
First of all, thank you so much for this question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me this. If I could bring it all down into the one little core message that publishers love to have in a book, I would say it's freedom to fully express who I truly am beyond the mask and autonomy to choose whose opinion I keep and whose I just don't fucking give a shit about. And like full autonomy on that. Like whether it's blood, whether it's a friend, whether it's, whoever, my own parents, my own mother. And it's like, I can love you and I don't have to choose what you believe to be true for me. And that's been my journey with my own husband. Like I love the shit out of him. We've been living together again now for 2 years. And literally this past week with this lunar eclipse in Libra, this new moon has been activating another layer of me detaching from his belief systems and honoring my own without that needing to cause conflict or friction in our relationship. And it's that expansion, right? Like, how can we coexist in harmony, peace, and joy, and fun, and intimacy, and aliveness as two complete different human beings on our own soul journeys? And like compassion that you have to have for yourself and for others is how we heal the world. Because we're not here to, yes, we're all one spiritually, but human us, the 3D us, we all have different lived experiences and belief systems and core values. And it's not about being different and fighting about whose belief system holds more value. It's about creating enough space for all of our different walks of life to coexist in harmony and celebrate our differences.
Yes. I'm like
so that's what I learned.
Yeah. And that's the tip of the iceberg, right? So beautiful. And the question that's coming up is, in learning how to create and hold that space for differences, where do you go and what do you do when in a partnership, in a union, you're not being met with that same intention of like you're holding space for the differences and it's not quite reciprocated?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. You have to have so much faith in what you believe and stay true to it and allow them to meet you at acceptance when they're ready to. They never, ever, ever have to believe what you believe. Like I tell him all the time, I'm like, listen, I'm never going to tell you what to believe. I'm never going to say that if we don't have the same belief systems about God, then we're not supposed to be together. You know what I mean? And with children, maybe one day if we ever have them, we both are on the same page of we're just going to share what we believe to the children. And when they grow up, they get to choose what they believe. And that might be something completely different because each human is allowed to have their own divine connection with God in their incredibly unique way. It's just about a lot of space, a lot of space.
Yeah. Yeah. What the thing that I'm thinking, like the word trust just keeps bubbling up for me as we're talking about this,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of things in a lot of seasons where like the visions are different and the beliefs are different. And especially
Yeah.
when you're, on this life journey together and you're thinking like one person's like, oh, I see this in our future. And the other's,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I see this. And you're not quite on the same page because you're both constantly evolving, right? And getting to know yourself better and receiving like different messages and visions from God. Like I said, that brings up the word trust because there is such a level of trust in everything and full
Mm-hmm.
surrender that there's always orchestration happening above
I
and
think it
beyond,
also
right?
helps, like the fact that we did live apart, knowing that if there's another year in our marriage where I'm called to a different country for a year or whatever, that's okay. Our
Mhm.
love is the foundation, it's the anchor to come back home to. But neither of us ever want to be the one that holds each other back from going as far away from home as you need to in order to fulfill a calling, as long as you have that trust that you're going to come back home.
I love that. And it gets to be simple in that regard. Like that gets to like hold it all. We're gonna choose to come home to
Yeah.
this love regardless. And so it's safe
And
to
and
want.
knowing that like if you don't, then that means that it's time to move on. And when you're so whole in who you are and just like fully believe in your path won't lead you astray because you are connected to God, something greater than you, you're going to be protected. You're going to be safe. And like whether we have to untether completely for a moment of time, whether it's this lifetime, maybe we'll get connected again in the next lifetime, you know? And I remember saying that to him when I was moving out of my apartment. It was like, you're my person. Like I know that to the core of who I am. And like if we end up not making it through this because we still have to grow into being the versions of ourselves that can hold the love that we have, then I know we're going to connect again in another lifetime.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's devastating, right? That's the shattering of the heart. That is the break me the fuck open so that I could just heal fully. Let's
Love
pivot back. This is such an like not where I was expecting this conversation to go at all. But I want to know more about how did like fun coaching come to be and like what was that journey like? So you mentioned a little bit earlier about like having to shift from the fitness coaching and then you got married and then you had this like realization that something different was calling you. So what was that integration like from this shattering of I don't know, I'm not in alignment and I'm on the journey to alignment.
Yeah. So, gosh, I had a really intense season of burnout
Yeah.
because that transition into mindset coaching, which is a whole nother beast, like from a business aspect, really broke me down and really I had no other choice but to lay down my ego. Right. I
Mm.
didn't realize that I had been putting so much of my self worth and my identity in the success that I had created because I didn't go to college. I started as a hairstylist and then I became a
Oh,
personal trainer and I built up like something out of nothing over and
yeah.
over. I was really prideful in that and I
You
didn't even
fulfilled your
realize.
masculine journey. Mm.
Yeah, it really was. And so when it all crumbled unexpectedly, I panicked. I mean, of course I wanted to like rebuild everything and I just couldn't fathom the fact that like this like label of success, that this badge of honor that I had been wearing was taken away from me.
Mm.
And so I went into hustle mode and I, hired the business coach and did everything that she told me to do. And my screen time went way up and I became so isolated working from home. And I became addicted to being productive. and everything like just revolved around what I was trying to achieve. It burnt me out, of course, because that's no way to live. So, months go by. I throw my hands up. I'm like, okay, God, give me a miracle. I'm open to whatever format that wants to come through. Bring it on, because I'm really over it.
That's the best place to be.
Yeah. Okay, so that was like the beginning. It was like the first day of June that I literally sent that up. We left for a 2-week trip to Europe, and we visited his family who lives in France, and we went to Portugal, and it was so beautiful. And I just was so mentally strapped, where you're in the middle of a memory and you can't be present. That voice of like still needing to find a way to be productive on vacation just wouldn't shut up. And so the whole trip goes by, and I finally had this breakdown moment where I was like, I am so unhappy. I feel like an epic failure. Nothing good is coming from this. I have to lay it down. I have to be done here and go find a like corporate coaching position. This is not it. And of course, Alex is super supportive, as he always is. And then the miracle happened in this way, which was like the best possible way. Like, God knows his children so well.
Oh yeah.
He knew what I needed. And it was a puppy. Alex had no interest in getting a dog, let alone another small dog, because me and my Chihuahua came as a package deal. I just like started shopping for dogs online while we were on this vacation.
So random.
Yes, it was so random. And the miracle is that he was like in agreement so unexpectedly. And of course, I didn't second guess it. I was like, okay. And long story short, we landed in Charlotte at 12 p.m. on a Saturday, and like dropped our bags at the house and drove 2 hours right then and there to pick up a puppy.
Oh my God.
And I call him my angel. And it's like, he really, really, truly is. He was the miracle, because that was my catalyst to realizing that the only missing piece in that season where everything crumbled and I was burnt out and everything fell apart, the only missing piece was fun and joy and like lighthearted energy.
Yeah.
And he brought that back into my life. And I had that awakening where I realized that, oh my gosh, this changes everything. This is not a nice to have. Like, this is a need, a human need. And not only that, but we are given the tools that we need to succeed as connection, play, and creativity. And we're out here like doing the most and trying to control everything and focusing on the nitty gritty details. And again, being so addicted to productivity without realizing that we already have these tools, and it's so natural and it's so fulfilling to use them.
And it's a birthright, right? I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is like, you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to earn play. And especially people that like watch news and are in touch with like everything going on in the world, there's that guilt that sparks up for so many people that are like, I feel so happy and blissful and joyful, but I feel guilty of actually enjoying it.
That guilt. And it's
where does that come from? Like, why do we feel that way?
What I've noticed is, in sharing this message with different rooms of people, about like, I feel like 50% of the men that I share this with are really intrigued and really like want to know more, and they get it. But it's 100% of the women. Like, women's eyes light up when I start talking about like permission to play and have fun again, because women carry this guilt because we're so wonderful at multitasking and being so hyper productive every moment of the day. And we take on so much responsibility, especially mothers, right? Working mothers who have like so many different compartments in their life where they need to pour all of themselves into. And it just creates this guilt around everything. And we have to let that go, because just like you're saying, it's a birthright. And it's also, the understanding, and this is what I geek out so hard teaching this stuff, because there's so much science and so much research that shows us that it's actually profoundly productive to prioritize fun and play and be unplugged and do whatever you need to do to fill your cup and have that lighthearted energy, because we will never operate optimally without it.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for your book. That is going to be so good. I can't wait to see like all of the research that clearly you have put into this. What was that journey like of like actually writing the book? Because I'm on the journey of like, still getting the ideas of a book, but I haven't like actually put it into this like beautiful package and the research behind it and things like that. So was it hard for you, or was it all like just nuggets that you were just following like a thread?
Yeah, I like the way you said that. It was the nuggets and following the thread.
Mm,
I've had, being self-employed and having a business since I was 21, like thankfully I've had the years of getting used to taking it step by step and not
yeah.
being able to see 10 steps ahead. And I think a lot of people oftentimes they want to have the next 10 steps planned, but you really don't know what step 5 is going to be until you're at least at step 3. And so it's been a lot of that, of just like trusting that I have what I need at every given moment and every given stage. And it has all unfolded so beautifully, but it definitely, like in the beginning, was a bit daunting because it's quite a process and quite a journey. But as, someone who loves to express creatively through writing, I mean, with everything, I infuse fun into literally everything that I do. I don't want anything to feel like work. Like everything gets to feel like play, should you approach it that way. And
Mm.
so I've had to really take that mindset. And anytime things become daunting and not knowing what's next and all the uncertainty and all the things, all the what ifs, my reframe is always, instead of letting the uncertainty become anxiety provoking, I treat it like Christmas Eve, right? Like you get a
Tell me
surprise,
more. Okay.
like, oh, something miraculous is going to happen because it always does. And I don't know what it is. And I get to be so excited, like a child is excited about Christmas morning, instead of so bogged down by the fear.
Wow. I absolutely love that. So, can you tell me more about like, do you have like a framework or something? Like, how does it work exactly? Like, especially for somebody who maybe fun is so foreign to them because it's been so long since they have tapped into that space. How would you walk someone through that?
Yeah. Uh, there's so many different directions that we can go in. And I will say, first and foremost, it is absolutely essential that you update your definition of fun.
Mm,
I think the first block that people run into is it feels phony, like they're forcing themselves to do something, and we call that like faux fun. And I'll tell you right now, like I teach fun as it's enough to just have fun and enjoy your life, absolutely, but I use it as a tool for you to really maximize your growth and success in life and like squeeze all the juice out of everything that you want to accomplish. And if
I
you
love
want
that.
to do it that way, there is no room for faux fun. Like it needs to be what you actually want to do, what would
Mm,
make you feel good, what you would genuinely enjoy. Like those connection, creativity, and play, we can define those and go into that. And if you want to check out my website, it's all there. But above all else, it's got to be something that sparks that light within you. Like I feel it in my chest. And if it doesn't spark that light, it's not fun and you don't do it.
wow.
And it gets to be that simple.
It's so funny because I create spaces for women to have a sacred practice that feels authentic to them, right? So it's not about the yoga, the breath work, even the journaling, unless it is natural, something that is like innate in them. And it sounds like the fun is kind of similar and parallel to that in that sense, where it's like if it's not authentic to the core of who you are, and if it's not coming naturally, and if it's not flowing in a way that makes you feel connected to yourself, it's not going to stick and it's not going to work. It's going to be somebody else's framework and way of life and this and that. And you're just going to be searching and seeking. And it always comes back to the inner child stuff, right? And it's like, what did you love to do as a kid? And like, yeah, I wrote, I drew, I painted, I danced, and like when I was living alone, and it was the same thing where I was like, I needed to completely let go of hustle culture through my system, and it was those practices, and I didn't know it then that I was literally like bringing fun into my life again. And yeah, thank you for that beautiful mirror and reminder of like, this is the journey of what is the point of striving for success and all of these external accolades if we're not actually taking the time to enjoy the journey and our life in the everyday moments.
I've been asking myself the question, if I'm not having fun, what's the point?
Mm.
Since I was a child. And as a child, that was instantly squashed because life isn't always fun. And that is true. That is reality. So why would we not have as much fun as possible? Because there's going to be stuff, there's going to be loss, there's going to be pain, there's going to be hardship. Why would we not like expand and create the fun everywhere that we can, knowing that, again, that other side exists, right? Like it's all part of life. So we should be having as much fun as possible. That's the whole freaking point. And what people really miss, which is what I'm like trying to go out into the world and like yell from the mountaintops,
What you're doing, girl. You're doing such a good job.
Doing it literally from the mountaintops, thinking about Sedona. Not only is the whole point to enjoy the journey, but when we do that, it's so much more effective in getting what we want also. Like it's a total win-win. It is the win-win of all time, and we need to start taking advantage of it.
Since you started the journey of expanding into your fun and joy, has it made you even more connected to the opposite end of it, of the grief and sorrow? Like, do you feel that more because you're tapping deeper into your emotions overall?
I just went within to like feel into that question, and absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think I feel things a lot deeper, but I have a much greater capacity to hold the hard emotions. Yeah. Like I hold them with a lot of, in my book, like in the intro, I'm thinking I talk about like the whole premise is to enjoy everything. I have it tattooed on my wrist, like in the format of like enjoy, like the origin of the word. And I did that because for me, whenever I look at the word broken down that way, I think of, even when there is pain and grief and loss, you can hold that in joy because you had to feel the love and the joy and the gratitude in order to then feel that magnitude of loss. So you can hold everything in joy.
Wow. That's so beautiful. And I completely agree. And I think when you're able to hold that duality, that is how you expand your nervous system, your capacity, your energy in order to receive even more. Because if you're constantly depleted, constantly tapped out, constantly feeling like everything in life is too much, where is the space for the universe to pour more into you?
That you create so much more space for things to happen for you, for miracles, for divine orchestration, and
creativity,
yes, literally, which like everything, it becomes exponential, and what can come from that. And at the same time, like that journey involves a lot of uncertainty, as we know, from like the journey of marriage and being in that kind of union with somebody to like growing a business. There's so much uncertainty. And that is actually one thing that has been very notable is my tolerance and my acceptance for uncertainty has grown tremendously, which allows you to like not just make the space, but keep that space wide open and keep your hands open to receive consistently. And I mean, that is life-changing, a different way of living.
Have you always been that way, or have you ever like, how do you process anxiety?
How do I process anxiety? Ooh, good questions. I think it was because of the way I was raised. My parents were not very anxious people, and I was a middle child who very much so was very self-sufficient. And so I kind of got, I don't want to say tossed aside, but they trusted me.
Yeah, no, I'm also the middle child syndrome is very, very real. Yes.
Oh, it's very real. And so I didn't have a lot of anxiety like cast onto me, where my parents didn't try to control or micromanage very much at all. And so I'm grateful for that, because as an adult, like I think we all feel anxious from time to time, but I haven't battled a lot of anxiety. Don't get me wrong, like uncertainty will always make people anxious. And there are things like I have had seasons, seasons of depression and seasons where it goes there. And I think for me, the biggest tool that I lean on initially is I have this mantra, I guess you could call it, that's like, okay, feel whatever you're feeling hard and fast. and not to rush through it, but go there. If you're really
I
fucking
love
scared right now, be really scared. Curl up into a ball. Like, let your inner child react the way that she
Yeah.
needs to instinctively, so that like we can't move through things before they move through us. And so like giving yourself what you need, and then, you know, having the, I don't want to call it discipline, but whenever that's moved through you, like choosing, again, coming back to what would feel good and really being in tune with what feels
Devotion.
good, mind, body, soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, of course, I love what you're saying because I've never heard anyone say it that way, but it's kind of like what I say, like allow the emotion to fully express itself. But I love how beautifully you said your inner child just needs a moment and just like let her fully just feel it. And like people want a framework on how to like feel their emotions. And when you're already trying to search for a framework, that already tells me that you're in your mind and you're not in your body. So the only way to feel is by tapping into the body. And that has to be messy. It has to be free. It has to be expressive. It has to not be cute, you know? And the more we try to make it picture perfect, the more we try to make our life this picture perfect image of what we think it should look like, it's just not authentic. It's not real.
No.
Humans are messy.
Yeah. And there's so much magic in the mess. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
Like
So much.
that's where the beautiful things happen. And I love how we're, you know, talking about tuning into the body, because that's so important. And that's, I think that's another way like of saying what I'm talking about, like what feels good.
Yeah.
In that I think sometimes people, they're like, I want to veg out and watch a show or scroll on my phone. And there's a time and place for that. And sometimes that does feel good. I think it's kind of rare, honestly. But like the
I think
sensations
that's a
in the body.
distraction.
Right.
I think
Thank
that's a comfort zone. I think that's like, I actually don't want to do the hard part of feeling, going a layer deeper into the depths of this emotion. So I'm just going to numb out and enjoy this show, or I'm just going to grab my phone and start scrolling and enjoy myself and detach, right? And disassociate. That's why we're perpetually repeating these patterns, is because we are not creating the spaces to go one or two layers deeper out of fear of what we might find on the other side. What if that opens up the can of worms that my mom never loved me and then I'm going to spend 10 years in therapy? And I love that you said hard and fast, because you're not going to, if you try to avoid it and numb it out, then it's going to creep up for 10 years. And yes, you'll need 10 years of therapy. Or you could go hard and fast in that one moment and nip it in the bud. Feel it, release it, alchemize it, express it, gain the wisdom on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just nailed it. Literally step by step. Like just go there. Just meet yourself there. There's really nothing to be scared of.
Yeah.
There's liberation on the other side. And
Yeah.
there's feeling connected to yourself on the other side. One of the biggest things that comes up as a block in like living in a more fun way is our devices. And that's a whole
Mm-hmm.
segment I do with my clients, is let's talk about your relationship with your devices and what this looks
Mm.
like, because it is way too easy to numb everything, because we have this highly addictive device on us 24/7 that gives us that out where we don't have to feel
Yeah.
what we need to feel.
And it's disconnecting us from our core energy that is uniquely our own. And I know for me, because I don't know, my human design is just like fully open for some reason. So I like absorb a lot of energy. And I notice when I am saying things to my husband and I'm like, oh, like, a man should be doing this and this and that. That means like if you want to love me, then you should be like fully providing for me and things like that. And he's like, well, that's not what you said when we got married. Like you're a very ambitious person and you want to have your own this and this and that. And I caught myself. I was like, oh, I'm actually absorbing all of the noise on social media that is screwing out what it means to be masculine, what it means to be feminine, and it's not actually authentic to me. So
Yeah.
detaching from social media is so crucial to listen and connect back to what works for you and your marriage, not what you think should be the way to have a happy marriage.
Yes. And it's only natural to absorb. Like we can't
Yeah.
We can't change the way our brains are hardwired as humans. Like, we can't change the fact that if we binge watch a show or scroll on social media for 2 hours, like, those voices stay in our heads, and those
Yeah.
ideas, they do influence us. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
can't change that. We have to be intentional and very,
Mm.
very like filtered in what we're allowing into our headspace.
Yeah.
It's so
So
important.
important. Well, I could talk to you forever. This was so incredible and amazing and juicy and just beyond what I thought was going to happen today. So thank you so much. How can my audience find you and how can they work with you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was wonderful, and we may just have to do round 2 on my
Yes.
podcast. Yeah,
Ooh.
amazing. So yeah, you can find me at Kari the Fun Coach, and I'm sure Sana will have this in the notes for spelling purposes and such. But Kari the Fun Coach, basically on all platforms. And if you want to join my free community or explore like coaching, all of that good stuff is on my website. And on that website are a lot of resources and all my platforms as well. So that's a great place to start.
Amazing. Well, yes, everything's going to be in the show notes. So head over there to connect with Kari. And Kari, again, thank you so, so much. This
Yeah.
is great.
Thank you guys so much.